Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Bava Kama daf Samach Tes. We are going to begin on the top of Samach Tes Amud Aleph, the fourth line from the top. Goof, we're getting back to what we said before. Rabbi Yochanan. Gazal, let's say a person stole an item. V'lonis yaishu habaylim. However, the original owner didn't lose hope in getting it back. So the din is shneim en yichayim l'hakdish. Both the original owner and the Ganav don't have the ability to be makdish this item. Why? For different reasons. One, because it's not his, because it's lifnei yish, and therefore the person wants it back, is expecting to get it. So therefore the Ganav, it's not his. However, since it's not in the rishus of the owner, so therefore he can't be makdish it either. So we know that Rabbi Yochanan generally holds like a stam mishnah, and how could Rabbi Yochanan therefore have said that statement? Because we say in the following stam mishnah, Utanan, Karim Ravoi, when it comes to the dinim of the fourth year of bringing your fruits to the Beis HaMikdash, Hayu Misanin Oiso Bik Zuzais Adama. They used to leave it in clumps of earth, and they would use that as a type of a sign in order to acknowledge that this is the special din of Karim, Rabbi, and that you're not allowed to eat this unless there is a pigeon has to be redeemed. So that's what they would do, and they would use the simana ki adama. The simon was, it's just like the earth. Just like the earth, after a whole bunch of work, plowing it and putting seeds in it and harvesting it, eventually if you do stuff to the earth, then you'll be able to get benefit from it. So too, just like the earth, it requires work. So too, when it comes to this, you need to redeem it first. So this is a reminder that if you use these clods and clumps of earth, that's a simon of Kerem Ravai that all you need to do is redeem it. Vishal Arla, however, when it came to the first 3 years, when you cannot use these fruits for the first 3 years, they would use Becharsis Simona. Gecharsis. They would use this type of clay pottery. So, just like when this charsis, which a person cannot get hana from it, it's not something which has much utility. So too, you're not allowed to use, it's also hana to use arla. Okay, so again, this charsis, which was something that basically had no utility, therefore that was a good simon. Rishel kvarois, when it came to grave sites, in order for people to be able to know to avoid them so they don't become tameh, besid simona, they would put this plaster, the chiver katsamois, which had the color white just like bones. And therefore you would look at it and remember there are people that are buried here, which are the atsamois. And therefore, by looking at this similar color, it'll cause you to avoid being close to it. And what they would do is they would melt the lime, and then they would pour it. By doing it this way, it made it a much brighter, clearer whiteness, and therefore it would be a much more recognizable simon. There's going to be a question here eventually. Why do we say that we do all these different things as a heker for people that are coming up back and forth? That's the hefker ninhu. That's in a situation when we're dealing with something of hefker, of a bashar. In other words, for example, in Shemitah, which everything is hefker, and therefore people can possibly go and they'll think to take it, and therefore you need to have all these simanim, because generally, if something's hefker, you can go and take it. When it comes to the other years in which a person's not going to go and steal it anyway, halitehu l'rasha v'yamos, let the Rasha go and take it. In other words, so if it's Shemitah, the problem is all these things are hefker, and the person may take it. And since they would be coming into your property beheter, so therefore we should safeguard them from making these mistakes. However, if you're dealing with the other years in which it would be gazela, you're a crook to do so, so you say, okay, let the Russia take it and let him be punished for being a sinner. However, not everyone accepted that. Sinuin, those individuals who are, as we saw in yesterday's daf, like Hasidim, they're extra pious and careful that no one should sin with their items. Manichin as hamois, they would take monies from another location. They would say that wherever these fruits are, that they should be chulin, and therefore the kedusha should be transferred onto my fruits. Okay, that sounds like a wonderful thing, but this means that even though it isn't in his rishus, so this is a kash Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says you can't do this. So how does he explain the snuin? This is what we brought up again in yesterday's daf. Mantana snuin Rashim Gamliel. Rabbi Yochanan kastam yichida lomar. Maybe this is not really a stam mishnah. This is a stam yichida, and therefore he just doesn't hold like him. In other words, when we mention snuin, that's not a part of the stam mishnah, but that's Rabbi Shimon Gamliel who completed with this. V'yomer Rabba bar bar Chana Rabbi Yochanan kol makom sheshana Rabbi Shimon Gamliel mishnaseinu halacha kamaisu chutz me'avasidim b'rayach rayna. There's only 3 exceptions. Otherwise, whenever we find Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, we hold like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. That's what Rabbi Yochanan said. Which means, even if you want to tell me that maybe, this Mishnah is not a Stam Mishnah, it's like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, and he doesn't hold like a Das Yachid, he does hold like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, unless it's one of these 3 cases. Rashi over here reminds us a little bit of what these cases. Arev is beget poshet, has to do with writing a regular document, as opposed to get makusha, which is tied. Sidoin is memesha oxai cardiokus, has to do with a certain illness that a person had, and the dinim over there. Uraya, it says Rayach Raina, because in Masechtas, second paragraph of Masechtas Sanhedrin, there's 2 different cases, and there's Raya Rishayna and Rayach Raina. So therefore, the second case is where we do not hold like him. Otherwise, we do, and this is not one of the 3 cases of that we don't hold like him, of Orev Tzidon V'Rayach Reina. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan holds like him. So if Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, L'chayru Makasha, Sari Lo Tema Kol Hanilkat Mizeh, El Ema Kol Hamislakit Mizeh. It doesn't mean anyone who already took, and therefore the fruits are no longer in their rishus. The language is anyone that it will be gathered, but right now it's still in his rishus to be able to do it. So just change the language a little bit, and then we're all fine. Well, me and Rabbi Yochanan hachi, but does Rabbi Yochanan say this? Remember Rabbi Yochanan snuin Rabbi Daisa Amar Davar Echad. He says that the snuin. We said that Rabbi Yochanan himself says snuin and Rabbi Daisa say the same thing. So, what is the case of Rabbi Daisa? Rabbi Daisa nilkat kaimar. We're going to see the case of Rabbi Daisa is not that which will be gathered, but he's talking about that which was already gathered. So we're going to see Rabbi Daisa holds even if it's not in his rishus. Therefore, if that's the case of Rabbi Daisa, so that's the case of the snuin. And since Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, it must be that he holds like the case of snuin, even though it wasn't in his rishus. So that's going to be the kasha. So how do we see Rabbi Daisa says? This is the Sanya. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Shachris in the morning. And this is, Rashi says, Indian leket, when a person, when we have dinim of leket, shech, and peah, the various gleanings of one's fields for the aniyim. So he says like this, Shachris balbais oimed, the oimer, in the morning the balbais stands up and he says, Kol shigilkatu, aniyim hayoim yehi hefker. Any items, and it says the language of shiyilkatu, right? That everything will be hefker. Rab Daisa Oimer le'etus le'itoise erev Oimer kol shilokatu aniyim yehi hefker. So one is, according to the Tanakama, you can always say in the morning the stuff which is here already, because it's in his rishos. Rab Daisa says at night when it's already taken, he can say that it's all hefker. Why would he say this? So Rashi explains, when it comes to din of leket, the kaimalan shnei shiboilin leket. If all you have are 2 sheaves, a small amount, it's leket. Sholosh ain't leket. But if it's a significant amount, it's 3 or more, that's not considered for the niyam. Vein kol haniyim bekiyin b'halacha. But not every ani is an expert. 2 yes, 3 no. Therefore, if let's say you have bundles of, let's say 3 sheaves, in which it's possible that an ani may end up technically stealing it, because if it doesn't belong to him, it's not matan saniyim, so then he has no right to go and to take these things. But the problem is, the niyim are not bad people, they're just not educated. So therefore, the better thing to do is to be mafkarit. And therefore, if you're mafkarit, then they'll be able to take it without having committed a sin. Now, how do you do so? The one possibility is while it's still here. However, Rav Daisa says it's talking about a case where it's not here, you can still be mafkarit. So the kash is, if that's Rav Daisa, that's the same thing as the snuin, which means that Rabbi Yochanan holds like the snuin, which is against what Rabbi Yochanan says, that if it's ein rishus, you can't be makdish. So Epoch, to Rabbi Yehuda, Rav Daisa, Rabbi Yehuda. We should actually switch around the shitas. Switch around the shita, Rabbi Yehuda, Rav Daisa to Rabbi Yehuda. And therefore, it's really Reb Daisa that says that you can do this only in the morning because you still have it, because it has to be in your rishos. Okay, so therefore that's a way to get out of it. So my afchas masnisa afchas Rabbi Yochanan. Why do we have to switch the shitas about leket between Reb Daisa and Rabbi Yehuda? Why don't we just switch around this other statement? And wouldn't you say that maybe Rabbi Yochanan said that Snu and Rabbi Yehuda said the same thing? And therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says that, so you have to switch it around. Rabbi Yehuda is talking about Shachris Baal Bayis Oimed, and the Snuim is also talking about in the morning. So why do you have to switch around Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Daisa? Maybe we should just say that we'll keep the sheet to Rabbi Yehuda, but Rabbi Yochanan, he didn't say that Rabbi Dosa says like the Snuin. Maybe he said that Rabbi Yehuda says like the Snuin. Why don't you say it that way? So yeah, Masnis. You have no choice but to switch around this way. The Bahamas Nisan Katani the Isla Rabbi Yehuda Breira. The Shamino Rabbi Yehuda Bayamad Isla Breira. So we know that Rabbi Yehuda in general does not hold a Breira. So therefore we have no choice but to switch it around. So we find elsewhere in many places in Shas, actually we're going to bring this down in a second, that he doesn't hold a brera. So as Rashi says, the kaimer kol shi yilkoit, when he says that anything kol shi yilkoit, that's something in which is problematic. He's saying in the afternoon, at night, he can say, oh, anything that was taken. V'chi lokit amrinin hoover lizet shezeh hefker. He's saying that whatever was taken was considered to be already like retroactively hefker. Like I had already planned this out. Even though he didn't know this in the morning, the shemel yilkutu yosu al dinam. Maybe the guy's not going to take 3 sheaves of leket, and therefore he would be allowed to. He only took 2. He didn't know. He doesn't know what ended up happening or what's going to happen. So therefore, the only way it would work is if you hold a brera. Rabbi Yehuda does not hold a brera. And ever since Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold a brera, we are going to better switch the shitas of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Daisa. And therefore, again, really it's Rabbi Yehuda who says that at night you can do this, but not in the morning. Because in the morning, okay, fine, it's in your rishos. But the other problem is you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what they're going to take. So how could you be mafker something when you don't know what they're going to take or if they're going to take anything at all? It would only work if you would hold a brera. And therefore, that's the reason why Rabbi Yehuda has to be switched. Rabbi Yehuda has to say that we're talking about a case where it was done at night, after you already know what was taken. Again, there's the other side, it's not in your rishus, but at least there's no issue of brera. But according to Rav Dosa, he doesn't have an issue with brera. And therefore, he says that it actually took place in the morning. Why does Rav Dosa say in the morning? As we said, because this way he'll be like stewing, it won't be a kash anymore in the shita of Rav Yochanan. Question 4. At night. Ma svara the lomahani kol shiakatu, masvar delo mahani kol shalokatu. Why is it maybe worse in the morning? Why is it worse maybe at night? So one issue is if it's in the morning, you don't know, so it's breira, maybe holding breira. And the issue of kol shalokatu is because a person cannot be mafker something which is not in your rishos. Now, where do we actually find that this is true? That Rabbi Yehuda does not hold a breira. Ditnan, and as we continue to Samach Testament Beis, how many times in Shas is this sugya brought up? Right? You don't even have to go through this sugya. The Gemara should just already know that we hold a breira. And who doesn't hold a breira based on this sugya? But, well, here we go. So a person buys wine from among the kutim, specifically on Erev Shabbos Ben Hashmashos. So you really don't have a whole lot of time to be able to have separated it, and therefore we have this whole issue about Trumas and Maisros. So Omer, you can say the following thing. Shnei Lugin Shani Asal Hafresh. I'm not being mafresh it now, there's a ton of stuff. I will be mafresh this. And 2 lugin of it is Harihain Truma. That's going to have the status of Truma, which will be my 2%. A Sarah Meiser, 10% will be Meiser Rishon, given to the Levi, and therefore I'm down to really 88. Okay, but it's if you already took off 2, 98, it's 9.8. It's a little duck. Tess Meiser Sheni, we're talking about years 1, 2, 4, and 5. So you're going to take off the Meiser Sheni. Umeichel v'shaisa miyadi v'rameir. Rameir holds that it works. You could do this. Why? Because Rameir holds there's no issue of breira. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Shimon, all 3 of these shitas oisrin. They all say it's usher. They all said you cannot do so because they do not hold a breira. So Gemara says Amri so amai afchas mastisins. Okay, which is interesting because the Gemara just stops there. Some people say really it's not in it. That may not necessarily be the answer about breira. We have to learn it from Ayoy, from the dinim of Erev, because maybe this is because of Shemi Baka Hanoid. Okay, all these other Gemaras on the left side. Anyway, so the Gemara says as follows. Soif, nonetheless, why are you switching on the Shitas Rabbi Yoisin, Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Daisa? Mishum de Kasher Rabbi Yehuda. Because you have this problem with Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold a breira. So we see clearly he doesn't hold a breira. So therefore it couldn't be that he said that you did this in the morning because you don't hold a breira. So Hashdanami, Kashna Rabbi Yochanan, we're still going to have a steer on Rabbi Yochanan. Why? Diamu Rabbi Yochanan lo temakol shel nilkat el emakol she mislaket al islay breira. So what do we have? We're saying that he holds a breira. But the point of why we had to establish Rav Yochanan like this shita is because it had to be in the morning, because it has to be in your rishus. We started off this daf saying that you cannot be makdish something if it's a davar shin b'rishusai, if it's not in your domain. So therefore, if it's not in your rishus, that's why he's forced to say it was done in the morning. If it was done in the morning, the issue is ein breira. But okay, it must be Rav Yochanan doesn't hold as an issue of breira. He holds islay breira. But it's not true. I'll show you elsewhere. He doesn't hold that you can make this type of calculation. What does Rabbi Yochanan say? When it comes to brothers that divide their properties of their fathers, the halachic status is they have the status as lukuchais, and it goes back on yovel. So how is that a question? Let's look at Rashi. So v'lo amrinan, we don't say whoever hadavar. It's been already figured out by these 2 brothers that this one gets a certain portion. It was already figured out. Yerusha loy kaimer achmana to tahadar, because we know when it comes to the dinim of a Yerusha, of an inheritance, the din is that it's not returned. Right? We don't say it goes back to the original owners on Yovel. El amrinan chelko shel zeh hayeroy lezeh bechlifu. B'harihu kemekach v'chayzin machlifin b'yovel. By Yerusha, it doesn't go back on Yovel. So why is it not considered to be like a Yerusha? It's because It's just brothers that split it up. But it wasn't like pre-figured out, oh yeah, he was going to get this, he was going to get that. Therefore, it doesn't really have the same din as the Yerusha. And therefore, that's the reason why it's master to the original owner's B'yovel. But it goes back, if you will, not to the, if there's no original owners, it goes back to it all being like one mass, and then it has to be recalculated. But the point is that obviously it's because there's no din of Brera. Rabbi Yochanan does not hold a Brera. El oilam kol shenilkat. Rabbi Yochanan stam achrina ashkach. Rather, we're going to say like this. We're going to say that really the proper lashon is called hanilkat. So we end up changing the whole language of everything, and we end up saying, so we're saying now it's really called hanilkat. Not anything hamislakit that will be gathered, but that which already was gathered, which means it's not in his rishos. So therefore the problem is, how does that work according to Rabbi Yochanan? How does he understand this? So Rabbi Yochanan stam achrina eshkach. So yeah, right, there's a stam mishnah like the Snuin that says what it says, but it says that Ganav number 1, who has their items stolen from Ganav number 2, the second Ganav does not pay kefil to the first Ganav. I understand why Ganav Sheni number 2 doesn't give anything to the first Ganav that he stole from, because the pasuk is going to be ish, Ganav. The pasuk says you're supposed to pay the original owner, not the Ganav. So therefore, Ganav number 2 doesn't have to pay kefil to Ganav number 1. If in fact this is the case, you should have to give it back, as the pasuk says, ish. You should have to give it back to the original owner. So why not? Elav, why don't you? Why does the Ganav Sheni not have to pay kefil to the original owner? The whole notion is because it's she'eno rishusai. We see clearly it's because it's not in his rishos, and therefore that's how we understand this. And therefore we see clearly this is a stam mishnah that if it's not in your rishos, it doesn't work. So look at Rashi. There's an issue of Brera, lo tepuch, the Isle Rabbi Huda Brera. Maybe Rabbi Huda does hold a Brera. What do you mean? We just saw this case of Okech Yaim Bin Kusim that he holds in Brera. So you can't do this. No, but Taima do Okech Yaim Katani Hasim Mishum Shemi Bacha Noid V'lo Mishum Brera. Maybe, as we said, the reason why is he's scared the thing's going to break. And therefore, it turns out that you ate tevel or mafreya retroactively. But it has nothing to do with the Brera. Maybe Rabbi Huda Taka does hold a Brera. Right? And therefore that's not the issue. However, he uses this other stam mishnah in order to be able to show that if it's Eina B'Shuso, the din is that it doesn't work. And that's the reason why the Ganav Sheni does not pay the original owner. Why do you want to go after this stam mishnah? In order to support yourself, why don't you go after the Snuin that says that you could be mafkirit even if it's not in your rishus anymore because it was already taken away. Mishum de Messiah Kra, because you have a pasuk that supports him. The ish kiaktish is beisu kodesh Hashem. Ma beisu b'rishuso av kol b'rishuso. It has to be in your rishus. The pasuk sounds quite clear that it should only work if it's in your rishus. There's a stam mishnah that says not like that. Okay, I don't know what to tell you. The reality is that we have a pasuk which sounds pretty clear that you should not be able to do so unless it's in your rishos. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan is going to again stick to, as we began, that you cannot be makdish something if it's not yours or if it's not in your rishos. So there, and he has a stam mishnah, as we just saw, that would support it, which again would show. We see that Ganav Sheni doesn't have to pay that the original guy. He doesn't pay the first guy, the Ganav, because it's not his. But also, it doesn't get paid back to the original guy because it's Eino B'Rishusai. Rabbi, if Rabbi Yochanan didn't couple these two cases together, you would maybe think the case of Snuin is like the sheet of Rav Daisi. However, Rav Daisa lately the Snuin. So let's understand this. Snuin Isil to Rav Daisa Ma Beganav. When we came to the case of someone stealing, of the Rabbanan Tekanta, the Rabbanan say, you know what, we're going to be nice and be lenient, which is again the case of the snuin, because what's happening? They're going into your field. It's not Shemitah, and they have no business going to your field. Nonetheless, the snuin, we say, you know what? Even though it's not in your rishus, we're going to be lenient over here, and we're going to allow you to be mafkirit, so that these people aren't thieves, but they're crooks. So we had a Havamina to think, or there's a sheet that says that if you're dealing with someone who's a crook, okay, let them steal, right? Let them get in trouble, let them get punished for their wrongdoings. So therefore, I can understand if Rav Dosa says that we're even going to make some leniencies, if you will, that will allow this when it comes to people to avoid sinners, then certainly we would allow when it comes to the aniyim. So they don't know the dinim of 2, 3. They're allowed to go in there. They're allowed to take. They're taking too much, and therefore it's also stealing. It's true, but it's not really the same level of stealing because they didn't premeditatively walk into your field to steal. They wanted to take what they thought they were legally allowed to take. They just don't know all the legalities of the dinim of leket. So that's how we can understand this. So Rav Daisa again will say ma beganav of the Rabbanan Tekanta. So animal srichel meimor certainly will be lenient. However, the other way around, no. Rav Daisa laisli the snuin because aniyim who the other Rabbanan Tekanta. Maybe when it comes to the din of leket, we're going to be lenient. We're going to say, you know what? We're going to allow, even though it's not in this rishos at night, we're going to allow you to do this because they're just poor people. We'll be nice to them. However, maybe it won't work that way. So the fact that Rav Yochanan said, no, they're saying davar echad, you can't say that that according to the sheet of Rav Daisa that he would not hold like the snuin. Omer Rava, Ilavdi Omer Rav Yochanan snun Rav Daisa Omer davar echad. If Rav Yochanan didn't say that, I would actually have thought that maybe that the person who is the snuin, as we thought maybe it was Rav Shem ben Gamliel, maybe it was actually the sheet of Rav Meir. Rav Meir, doesn't Rav Meir hold that Meiser Mammon Gavohu? We know that he holds that Meiser Sheni is considered to be a Mammon Gavoa, that it belongs to Hashem. Yes, we have a right to eat it, but like a lot of karbanos, we say ki kosachu b'shulchan gavoa kazachu. You're eating, but you're really eating like from God's table, but it's really not yours. Yafil hachi inyan pedia when it comes to redeeming these inyanim. Okmei rachmana b'rshusei. The Torah considers it as though it's in your shus that you have the ability to redeem it. T'chsiv, as Rav Meir holds, v'im go yigal ish memasroi, that when a person redeems his meiser chamishasav yosav alav. So you actually have to add an extra fifth when you do a pidyon of produce of Meiser Sheni. Now the truth is, it's not yours because according to Rameir, it's Mammon Gavoa, but nonetheless, Kari Rachmana Masroi, it's considered to be yours. Umaisim Chaimish. And since it's yours, you have a chiyuv of adding a fifth. So Rameir, that's what he holds. Rameir holds that when it comes to Meiser Sheni, even though it really belongs to Hashem, the reality is that we say it's ki'il like it's yours, and therefore if you redeem it, you have to add a chaimish. So Kerem Rabbi, when it comes to the case of the snuin by Kerem Rabbi, Nami Gomer Kodesh Kodesh Meiser, Glanat Gzer Shava, Ksiv Hach Kodesh Hilulim, Uksiv Gabi Meiser. When it says by Meiser, it says V'chol Meiser Haaretz, Mizera Haaretz, Mipri Haaretz, from all these different fruits of the land, of the trees, Lashem hu kodesh. So my kodesh nechsiv gabi meiser. When it comes to meiser sheni, af agav the mammon gavohu, according to Rav Meir, even though it really belongs to Hashem, it's not considered mammon hedges, mammon gavoa. Nonetheless, leidin pedia. When it comes to redemption, ukim rachmana b'rshusei, it's considered like it's in rishus. Af hai. So too when it comes to Kerem Ravai. Kodesh Nami, this also, the Chsiv Gabi Kerem Ravai, Avagav Dalal Mamin Didehu, it's not yours, because you have to bring it to the base of Mikdash, Inyan Achule, but the fact that you could redeem it, just like you can redeem Meiser Sheni, you can redeem Kerem Ravai, Ukim Rachmana B'Rshus, it's Ki'il like it's in your Rishus. The Ha-Kiyis B'Rshus Nami Ha-Lav Didehu. Because it's in your rishus, it's even when it is in your rishus, it's not really yours. It's not yours, even though it's in front of you, and it's in your property, but it's not yours. So you're still able to redeem it, even though it's not yours, because it's mammon kavoa, mishum hachi matzi machel. We still say that it works, that you're able to do it. Of a gabi leket, when it comes to leket, that's all when it comes to the cases we've been talking about with Rabbi and the Snuin. However, when we're talking about leket of the aniyim of the sheet of Rav Daisa, the gleanings of the stalks, the memoina diday, it's yours. You own the field, and the question is, do the aniyim have a right to take these shearings of these gleanings of stalks? So kis rishusehu de matzi mafkerle. Maybe you can only be mafker when it's in your rishus. Kilei rishusehu matzi mafkerle. So it makes a chiluk and says, if we're dealing with mum and gavoa, interestingly enough, it's not yours. But since even though it's not yours, we're lenient and we say you can redeem it. How can you redeem something that's not yours? It must be because we make it like it's yours. So therefore, if it's not in your rishus, you can still also redeem it. However, when it comes to the din of leket, where there's no issue about you owning it, so that's by Kerem Rabbi and by Meister Sheni, but not when it comes to leket. When it comes to leket, you are the owner. Possibly the poor person will get it as well. But the point is that we see that since it's yours, so maybe the only time you can be mafker it is dafka if it's in your rishus, or you can only be makdish it once it's in your rishus, but not if it's not. And therefore, the point is, the fact that Rabbi Yochanan said they hold the same thing is we don't say such a din. The din is that even when it comes to the laws of leket, like Rabbi Daisa, that even though it's not in your rishus, you still have to be able to be mafker it at night. It's not a problem. Ravina. Rabbi Yochanan snun Rabbi Daisa echad. If Rabbi Yochanan didn't say the statement, Hamamina mantan snun Rabbi Daisa. You would think, even though they say the same thing, you would actually think Rabbi Daisa and Snuim is literally the same person. Ki heichidu tikshi stam mishnu Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, we don't want to make so this way we wouldn't have had a kasha to begin with. We would say it's not a stam mishnah. It's like it's Rabbi Daisa. It's a stam yichida. Rabbi Yochanan kastam yichida Amar. So again, we're going to stop there on the top of Daf Ayin. You could have said again, the whole kasha to begin with is Rabbi Yochanan doesn't holds of a stam mishnah. But if you say it's a stam yichida, it's not a stam mishnah. There's someone attached to it. The snuin is not a stam mishnah. Snuin represents a shita, and if it actually represents a person, Rav Daisa, then in fact it wouldn't be a kasha to begin with, because the whole kasha is that Rabbi Yochanan has a stam mishnah. But if it's not a stam mishnah, so there's no steer to begin with. The fact that he said that the snuin and Rav Daisa say the same thing, he's basically establishing that the case of the snuin is a stam mishnah, which is why we had the kasha on Rabbi Yochanan in the first place. Okay, we're going to stop there, but let's see maybe another question. Okay, all there was question 4 on that. Let's see if TA 27 Me'eza Mishnah Lamad Rav Yochanan the Halacha Gadavin Yachal Hakdish Lavi She'enu Rishusai. Okay, so which Mishnah? So this is actually this is on Samach Testament Beis, which we just had. So the din of Ein Ganav Achar Ganav, let me just find it over here. The fact that it says Ein Ganav Achar Ganav, then itself is proof, right? Ein Haganav Achar Ganav, the second Ganav doesn't have to pay kefel. So the question is, why should he not have to pay kefel? Okay, I understand he doesn't have to pay kefel to the second Ganav because it says Begunim Bebeis Ish, but not the basic Ganav. But l'char you should still have to pay the Baalim. So why don't you have to pay the Baalim? So it's Elolam Shemamina Zelafi Shenu Shlo Zelafi Shenu Rishusai, because it's not in the Rishus of the Baal. So therefore, the whole din is only if it's was considered like in the Rishus of the Baal. Question 27. In a gun of Achagan Mishal Tashim Kefel, the my time will Yishal Mabalim El Karchach the Ein Rishusan. It must be because it's not in his Rishus. TB 27. This might their Midrasha Zoo. I thought we had this already a while ago. I don't know why I didn't mark this down. This is the same thing as question TA 26 on Samach Chesem and Aleph. Okay. Where's TH? Oh, that was TH26. Oh, this was TB27. Okay, so just to stay true to it. What was TB26? Which I also marked down for this daf, which may not be true. I mean, I accidentally skipped over TB26. My time of the mandir the ein chiv dalad v'hei el b'moicher acher yish. My time of the mandir the ein chiv el wifnei yish. Oh, so I put it over here, right? So this was again in yesterday's daf, that maybe if it's only after, it's only le'acher yish because you need to be nishtarish b'chet. They have to be mahana maisav. Maybe only lifnei yish, because he holds, if you he holds yish is kaina, and after yish then you own it already. Okay, so now maybe there's another question. Heichen tnan stama dechol shem b'shusa enu makdish u'mafker delu kisnuin. This is what we had before. Bereish perik, bereish pirkin, agunav minaganev. So that is the exact same question, which again is on Samach Tes Amid Beis Adkan.